Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction. The talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Antony Raimondo. We'll be discussing his book, Matt 2540, available at Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, or if you guys want to get everything that Antony has to offer, do yourself a favor. Don't stop at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Go directly to his personal website, AntonyFRaimondo.com. That's traditional spelling of Anthony, ANTHONYFRAIMONDO.com. There, not only will you be able to find this title, but you'll also be able to find another title that Antony has orchestrated already, and we'll talk about that a little later on in the interview. But in addition to that, you'll also be able to get more information on Antony and be able to purchase the books through the site as well. So one more time, that's AnthonyFRaimondo.com. And Antony was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business. UR Link Print and Media Publishing. If you have a book that you'd like moved, move it through UR Link. You can find them at urlinkpublishing.com. The book we're going to be discussing today, Matt 2540, is such a great book with an even better message, okay? Listen, we all understand what we're currently going through, right? This pandemic that has hit us all globally has really wreaked havoc on everything. And what I love so much about this book that Antony has put together for us is really the overall message of the book. The underlying theme is all going to be revolving around helping others, right? And not only helping others, but helping others without any expectation in return, right? Listen, he's the expert on the matter. I'm going to let him discuss it for us, but it's such a great message, guys. Listen, it's one that we love to discuss here at People of Distinction when we're talking about our human family, okay? Really being the only way we're going to get through any adversity or any challenges, but especially what we're going through right now with so many people out of work, so many people facing so many challenges, is, guys, we have to come together. Okay, and we have to help each other out. And what a great message to really discuss today on our show. So without further ado, we have Antony here on the line. Let's go ahead. Let's bring him on with us. Antony, first and foremost, man, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we are very much looking forward to this. Now, before we get into the book itself, let's hold off slightly. Okay, let's build that temptation just a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Antony.
Well, at the present, I'm 71 years old, and I've been retired now for 11 years. I have, I got more degrees than a thermometer. I have 2 doctorate degrees, one in educational supervision, the other one in theology. I have a master's in communication, theater, and another in education as well. I've had several careers during my lifetime, and I got into education when I was 40 because I was overqualified in my previous career, which really means they don't want to pay me, because how could you be overqualified for anything? Mm-hmm. And but I've also been, I studied a lot of scripture over the years, done retreats for men, have done Bible studies, and met with other gentlemen for breakfast before going to work for over 30 years. And one of the things that came to me is a couple of verses from the Bible. One is, love God with all your heart and soul, and love your neighbor as well. Another one is about the stranger you meet, and I don't remember exactly where it is, and I'm paraphrasing, you could be entertaining an angel. And in an Italian household, and I'm sure other people have the same customs, Italians always seem to make a little more food than's necessary for dinner time, because you never know if you're going to have an unexpected guest. Mm-hmm. So along with those lines, is where I drew the the idea of writing this book, Matt 2540, because you never know, you might be entertaining an angel or maybe even Jesus himself when you run into a stranger. So that's what kind of prompted the book.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, what a great segue. Anthony, let's jump into it. Matt 2540. Tell us a little bit about the narrative.
Well, Matt 2540, the title, is really shortened from Matthew 2540, the actual verse from Matthew, where Jesus makes a statement that what you've done for the least of my brothers, you've done for me. Meaning, like, you know, that poor, miserable person, that homeless person, that very sick person, if you've done something for that person, it's as if you did it for him. Mm-hmm. Well, verse 45 says, what you did not do for the least of my brothers, you did not do for me. Now, that kind of puts doing and not doing, it brings up a number of questions, because doing something, you could be doing the wrong thing. You know, you could be verbally abusing someone. You could be violently abusing someone. So you could be doing negative things. And when you're doing negative things to that person, you're not showing them love. You're not being kind. So you just indirectly mistreated Jesus. So, and then on the other side, if you just totally do nothing and, you know, you're pretty much into only yourself and you don't care about anybody else in the world, well, the same solution is there. You did that to the Lord. Mm-hmm. So those are the underlining concepts that I drew upon to write the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, let's go on to the next question. Let's talk about inspiration. Okay, now, of course, as you know, inspiration can take many forms. Now, of course, what inspired you to write this particular narrative? But even after that, really, you talk about having all of these degrees, which, congratulations, by the way. I mean, your resume is very impressive. So you have all these degrees, you have this very eclectic background, these different careers that you've embarked upon. What inspired you to switch and become a writer?
Well, I'm a very visual person. Mm-hmm. Okay. And with my master's degree in communication and theater, I did study, filmmaking. I did study those things. And like I said, I'm very visual. So I often get a lot of ideas that come to me for stories. In fact, about maybe 15 years before the bombing of the Twin Towers, mm-hmm. I actually wrote a story about. I actually had an idea for a story of a guy who calls the mayor and says, "I planted a bomb in the Twin Towers, and it's supposed to go off at 9:30. So everybody starts, running out of the building, trying to get out of the building, and ending up killing themselves trying to get out of the building. Well, at 9:30 comes, and the building doesn't blow up. So everybody thinks it's a hoax, including the mayor, and he goes back into the building. Everybody goes back into the building. Well, at 10:30, the building blows up. And the person gets on the phone and calls the mayor and says, "I lied." Now, I didn't think that was the kind of a story I wanted to write and let people be turned on to. So I've had ideas for different things. And on occasions, I say to myself, I don't want to teach somebody how to do something wrong. Mm. So I'm prompted to rather write things that hopefully will inspire people to do something right.
Absolutely. What a great way to utilize something that, listen, I'm an artist myself, right? I'm an actor and a filmmaker based here in Los Angeles. We kind of talked briefly on the pre-screening call, but what an amazing way, because listen, I deal with this all of the time, either through my creative efforts or through authors that I speak to. But what a wonderful explanation in terms of utilizing the power that you have, and in this regard, to be the power of the pen, to put something out there for good and positive use.
Yeah, because there's, often we see there's more negative material than there is positive. And in Matt 2540, see, one of the other things that I'm doing in my series that I'm writing is I'm not sugarcoating things. I'm not sugarcoating things so that, it looks like everything is la-di-da, it's really wonderful, because that's not real life. So in the story, and it's funny because when I originally wrote the story, I didn't have the same protagonist that I have now. And I got an idea because, when you watch a film, you're watching the action, right? So you're watching the story. So in Matt 2540, I decided I wanted to use a character who is having an out-of-body experience, who is now witnessing the actions of people doing things either nice for somebody or just ignoring them. And as he's having these out-of-body experiences, he becomes a believer because he really wasn't beforehand. And the reason he's having an out-of-body experience is because his partner, because he's a multimillionaire, and his partner is trying to kill him. And they knocked him out. They buried him under a pile of trash. And now what they want to do is drop a building on top of him. They're going to implode a building, and they're going to drop it on top of him and make it look like an accident so that, they can take over the business, multi-million-dollar insurance policy, the whole 9 yards. And in the meantime, he's having an out-of-body experience. He doesn't really remember who he is, but he's watching people do nice things to other people. And he's witnessing miracles, and he's witnessing kindness. And as a result, he then realizes that someone's trying to kill him, and now he needs the help of 2 homicide detectives to figure it out before he's dead. And that's pretty much the story. But the idea is, to show Matthew 25:40, what you've done to the least of my brothers. So he witnesses how people respond to a homeless man in the story. Do they treat him well? Do they treat him poorly? So he sees that. And the interesting thing about the homeless man is I leave it up to the audience to figure out exactly who he is.
Mm-hmm. Antony, just for my own thing, man, it's funny how you said you don't sugarcoat anything, and being a fellow East Coaster myself, I'm like, yeah, no, that's just kind of who we are. Of course, you're not going to sugarcoat anything, right? That's just in our nature. We give it straightforward. We're very blunt. That transparency is something that is, kind of bred in us that way.
Yeah, because there is evil in the world.
Of course. Absolutely.
So we have to deal with that. How do we deal with those things? How do we turn it around? How do we turn a negative into a positive? Mm-hmm. So you can't show that if you're sugarcoating things. Of
course. And a great segue that you made, Antony, you made the comment of your main character, how he wasn't a believer. And I think that that's such a great point to bring up because, listen, the moment anybody searches your book and they see that title, Matt 2540, and they start doing some research on what the book itself entails, they'll, as human beings are naturally accustomed to doing, they'll formulate assumptions, okay? And then as soon as they see that it has any type of, religious undertones, they'll formulate their assumptions about what the book consists of. Now, in your opinion, Antony, is this a book that is specifically geared for religious readers?
Well, I'll tell you, I had a student that, read the manuscript before it was really published. I had a student read it. And one of the things he said was, I really found the book amazing. And I said, why? He says, because he goes, you got this character in the story that you call the follower because he's following this homeless man and he's following these people and he's seeing what they were doing. He says, and I found myself being the follower. Mm. He goes, I found myself being the follower. And that was sort of like that was the thing that I added to the story that, no one ever does, is that what I was trying to do is make the audience become the follower so that they go through the process with him and hopefully provide some insight.
Mm-hmm. It's great because you see that reflection, right? And I think that makes it so profound and so powerful. Listen, guys, if you're already a quote unquote believer, right? If you're already a religious person and you follow along the suit, this book is absolutely right up your alley in terms of being able to showcase an experiences and a journey that you can travel along. But even people that aren't believers, even people that don't have that religious intent behind it, I think that this is such a great book because, listen, at the end of the day, whether you believe in God or you don't, we should be treating each other with respect and really helping each other out anyway, right? I mean, that's just life.
Amen. Absolutely.
No, it helps, of course. It helps, of course, if you do have that religious intent. But I think that is such a profound and such a powerful book here to really weigh in on both sides of the fence. Antony, thank you so much for that.
But you know what? I'm also looking at that. I honestly believe that the biggest audience, the largest audience for the book is the lukewarm individual.
Mm-hmm.
Not a non-believer, but not really a strong believer either. And something to get, that there's that phrase where Jesus says, better you were hot or cold, but since you're lukewarm, I spit you out. Because, lukewarm doesn't really taste good. So, no one likes lukewarm coffee or, lukewarm iced tea. So the idea is hopefully, those people that kind of like on the fence, maybe they get something from the story. And like you just said, if nothing else, just to be kind to someone in need.
Absolutely. Again, here on the line with Antony Raimondo. We're discussing his book, Matt 2540, available at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com or at his personal website, AntonyFRaimondo.com. But guys, listen, that's not all, okay? That is the main book. That's really the anchor of the interview. It's the one that brought Antony to our table and really that we wanted to discuss. But in addition to Matt 2540, guys, Antony has been putting in work, okay? He has another book that has already been published, and it's already out there for you to pick up. It's called Protect and Serve. There's another book that's not quite out yet. It is completed, but it's just going through the final steps. It'll be released hopefully later on this year, but keep a lookout for that. That one's called Deadly Change. And as Antony brought up before, this is going to be a series of books, okay? So he's going to have a lot more coming out to us shortly. So make sure you constantly go back and visit his website to keep up to date. Now, as we tie up the interview, Antony, and we close out this fantastic interview thus far, talk to us a little bit about Protect and Serve, please.
Well, Protect and Serve, the two, remember the first book, Matt 2540, introduces a lot of characters, and two of the characters that come back in Protect and Serve are the two homicide detectives. And one of the things that I've done with the homicide detectives is that, they're partners, and one of them is a strong believer and the other one's kind of like on the fence. And I use them to bring up Christian concepts and then have this sort of like dialogue between the believer and the non-believer, but they're two police officers that work well together. And this is how they keep themselves sharp. So in Matt 2540, in Protect and Serve, they're talking about Matt 2540, the Bible verse, and they see two prostitutes on the street. And the one detective, Mose, wants to he's saying, well, they could have Jesus in them. They could be our, sister, the least of sisters. We should be doing something. And the other officer says, well, maybe we should arrest them. So the story becomes about how these two homicide detectives take two prostitutes off the street into a legitimate career. And one of the reasons why I wrote that story is because I believe that rather than hiring a prostitute and using her for your own pleasure, that wouldn't it be a much better thing if you got her out of that business? And that's protect and serve.
Fantastic. Listen, what more can we say? Right? These are such fantastic books with, again, very powerful and relatable messages that we all can apply to our daily lives, right? But with Matt 2540, guys, it's not about, as we've stated already, it's not about whether or not you believe in Jesus or you consider yourself a religious person. The undertone, of course, it's given through the realm and the perspective of a religious connotation, a religious belief. But at the end of the day, the underlying theme is, listen, be kind to others. Okay? And not because you expect something in return, just because that is the human thing to do, right? We're all
Amen.
in this together, right? We're all in the same
Amen.
family. And I think that
Amen.
is such a great message to really be inspired by. Guys, do yourself a favor. As I stated, there's nothing more that can be said, okay? Do yourself a favor. Head on over to Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. Pick up your copy of Matt 2540 by Antony Raimondo, or go directly to his personal website, anthonyfraimondo.com. And listen, change your life, all right? It's not going to be easy, right? But it starts today. Right? Change your perception, change your outlook on life that way, and really how you interact with others, and watch how life begins to flourish. Antony, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. It was a delight having you on with us today on People of Distinction.
All right. Thank you again for having me.